issues about mismanagement of our economy leaves me worried. And when we are raising this issue, you said that the former Chief Justice who is raising such a critical issue is being emotional.
We have details as Ningo Prampram MP Sam George lashes out at the lawyer for his outburst. We'll also be updating you on the domestic debt exchange program as government is inching closer to achieving the participation target. Meanwhile, pensioner bondholders are continuing to picket the finance ministry over their inclusion in the program. We'll be crossing over live to the finance ministry for the latest. And later in this package, national chairman of the governing New Patriotic Party, Stephen Intim, has been cautioning presidential hopefuls against flouting the party's code of conduct ahead of the primary. Stay with us. We have details of these and more. Thank you for joining us from wherever you are. This afternoon, leading member of the New Patriotic Party, Gabi Asare-Otchere-Darko, is getting a lot of flack for his criticism of former Chief Justice Sophia Ekufu's decision to join pensioner bondholders to demand exemption from government's domestic debt exchange program. Gabi Asare-Otchere-Darko says the former Chief Justice lacks understanding of the issues and can self-exempt if she disagrees with the program. Many have taken on the lawyer, describing his attack on the former Chief Justice as unwarranted and disrespectful. MP for Ningo Prampram, Sam George, is one of them. We'll hear from him shortly. But here is the former Chief Justice Sophia Ekufu when she joined the pensioner bondholders to picket the finance ministry last Friday.
If there is the need to restructure debts, before you even decide you're going to restructure debts, the first thing you need to do, I believe, is to look what is fully under your control and see where you can cut this, you can postpone this, you can reprioritize, and be honest with the people of Ghana. Because of A, B, C, D, E, and F, we will shelve this. We will put this on the back burner. We will prioritize this because it has to do with education, it has to do with a human life, and so on and so forth. You don't just jump at the low-hanging fruit. And the people whose money is in your hand, and you're going to tell them, okay, your money is in my hand, and this is how you're going to get it back. It's rude, it's wicked, it's unlawful, it's not right.
So that was the former Chief Justice Sophia Ekufu last Friday when she joined the pensioner bondholders to picket the finance ministry, essentially demanding exemption from the controversial domestic debt exchange program. Joining me in studio is my colleague Dennis Wedam. He has been studying a number of tweets that the leading member of the NPP, Gabi Asare-Otchere-Darko, has been putting out in the last few hours. Dennis, thank you for joining us. Basically, run us through some of the tweets that Gabi has been putting out and what informed these tweets. Do we know?
Somewhere yesterday around this time that they were put out. 6 of them in all, beginning with thanking some of the individual bondholders. He mentioned specifically Senor Hossi, Gehard Mensah and Co., who he says they volunteered to lead advocacy, resulting for a better offer for individual bondholders, particularly pensioners, than the original offer. He thanks them in that particular one. The next one, he goes on to say that while I sympathize for those picketing, I think we should be bold enough to ask them what really is the purpose. Why picket over an offer you have the liberty not to accept? You are asking to be exempted, but from an you are asking to be exempted, but from an improved offer program which is voluntary. He goes on to say that, now pay attention to this because this directly is to the Chief Justice, the former Chief Justice, that the former Chief Justice Sophia Ekufu may mean well, but she erred big time in her basic appreciation of the issues. Rather than asking the government for exemption at this late hour, why did she simply not exempt herself from exchanging her original bond for the new ones? He goes on to say that, why picket over something you don't like, into brackets the improved offer, when you have the right not to sign up? Sorry, but I struggle to get her emotional outburst over exemptions. I hope she won't volunteer to picket tomorrow, which is today, and on the same issues when the time to sign up has expired. He doesn't end there. He continues by saying that I was among those who pleaded for the exemption of pensioners, but the government had to balance all that with the need to protect the economy for a 33 million population, and settled on a 15% yield maturing in 5 years instead of 15, and that the individual was free, and free is emphasized here. He writes it in caps, not to participate. He ends by saying that for a former CJ to take up a noble cause such as she did, but at such a late hour, when all was done, and for all that publicity, she owed it to herself and her social standing to have understood the issues far better than she exhibited last Friday. She is bigger than that. He ended with that particular tweet.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Dennis Wedam. And as to whether or not the signing on to this new program is voluntary, it's a conversation we are going to be having in the course of the program. But you want to stay with us. We can now hear from Sam George. He's the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram. He's been lashing out at Gabi Asare Ochredako. Listen.
No, under normal circumstances, we would have said, oh, this is Ebusuan Tokwa. But we can't leave them because what they are fighting over is public welfare, public funds, public monies that have been mismanaged. And the arrogance with which Gabi is shouting down the Chief Justice, who is raising critical issues about mismanagement of our economy, leaves me worried. You say it is not compulsory. Okay, if I say I would not sign up to the debt exchange program, are you guaranteeing me that when my bonds are due, you will pay me? You say no. The ministry uses a phrase, and the Bank of Ghana in their release, they say your bonds will become untradeable. If my bonds are untradeable, you're telling me that me nyamisika. But that is not what the contract between me and you and I was. And when we are raising this issue, you said that the former Chief Justice who is raising such a critical issue is being emotional. If you are a pensioner who has worked 30-40 years of your life and you have put all your money in a government bond that is supposed to be safe, and because someone has been useless at doing the job that you have taxed them to do, they've been clueless and inept at it, your funds and pensions and your savings is going down the drain, won't you be emotional about it? If you have a mother or a father who is a pensioner who uses their life savings, the coupon rates, the interest on their bonds to buy their medication, and today they are not getting it, won't you be emotional?
You had the Ningo Pram Pram MP Sam George there speaking to us on this particular matter. In the last few hours, we're getting the indication that governments may just have reached the 80% target to carry out this particular domestic debt exchange program, and the pensioner bondholders are still picketing. The finance ministry still demanding a total exemption from the program. We'll get through to my colleague Christian Yale, who is stationed at the finance ministry shortly, but let's hear from Senyo Hosi. He is the convener of the Individual Bondholders Forum. He's been giving some expectations of a finance ministry after today's exercise.
On the announcement of the bond results, some of us have an indication of what the numbers are. You also take steps also to announce clearly when you be paying the bonds that are outstanding and are already due. That would be very good for all of us as a country. If he fails to do that, there are a number of things that are going to be happening. One, you're actually stepping on the toes of labor union who are also holding these bonds. You are also stepping on the toes of individual bondholders. And we do not think that amidst all the challenges we have as a country, we need to really promote social action before you do the right thing that you will do anyway. So let's work together and just go beyond DDE, try to galvanize the right energy for us as a collective, as a country. Let's get this economy going again.
You heard that Senyo Hosi is the convener of the Individual Bondholders Forum. Let's cross over live now to the Finance Ministry, where my colleague Christian Yale has been observing the 6th straight day of picketing by the bondholders and the pensioners who have been picketing the area. Thank you very much for joining us, Christian. Do we understand why the pensioner bondholders are still carrying through this particular exercise of picketing? Do they not have any confidence that the assurance by the ministry is sufficient?
Well, so let's say that it is one thing for them to self-exempt, and it is another thing for government to document that it has exempted all pensioner bondholders. They believe that because government was able to document it officially that it has exempted, pension funds, it is the same thing they want to be done. So they believe that if Gabi or Ochredako or government says the program is voluntary, it is not enough for them, because if they decide to self-exempt, they fear there may be consequences later on their investment. According to them, even though government has proposed a 15% coupon rate, they are not ready to allow any haircut on their investment because their livelihoods solely depend on that. I have been speaking to the convener of the Pensioner Bondholders Forum, Dr. Adu Ananientwi, who believes on, or who makes the argument that it is better government document it and makes it official that it has totally exempted them. Otherwise, they are not really ready to self-exempt themselves because it may come with a future repercussions.
Those of us here, you don't understand what is voluntary. This is my area of expertise and work. So I will not lead people astray if I don't understand what is voluntary. The program has been voluntary from day one. You are not compelled to come under. But for people who don't understand, there's a difference between when the issuer, who is the government, has exempted you from the program, as again when you yourself has volunteered to be out of the program. And I will explain. The issuer has issued some debt instruments, so he owes some amount to be paid. When the issuer says, as for these debts, I don't have any problems with the payment, so I will exempt you from the restructuring. So the issuer tells holders of that bond that for you, I don't have any challenge with the bonds that you are holding, so I will not bring you under the restructuring program. I will exempt you. So it's like telling you that, look, as for you, the bond that you are holding, please go and sleep. Sleep well. Don't think about anything because I am going to do it the way I am doing it every day. I'm going to continue to do that. So go and sleep. You have been exempted. When you have not been exempted, the government is telling you, as for the rest of you, I may have challenges paying you. And so I wanted you to bring your old bonds and come for a new one, which I can pay. The old one I cannot pay. And you decide that, look, whether you can pay or you can't pay, I won't come. You have decided to stay there. So there are two different things, the positions. Here, the issuer has said, I can do everything on the bond. So please, go and rest. Here, the issuer is saying, I may have problems paying you. And somebody decide that whether you have problem or not, I will not come and change. So two different. When it comes to payment, and I assume the issuer has challenges, those that the issuer has exempted, they can go to the issuer and say, wait a minute, you told us that we should go and sleep well, because as for our debt, you don't have any challenges with it at all. So we should.
You had there the convener of a Pensioner Bondholders Forum, Dr. Ananientwi, but Christian Yale is still on the line. Christian, has there been any indication at all whether or not the Finance Ministry or any officials thereof are willing to give these pensioner bondholders a hearing at least?
All right, so Komla, as of now, there hasn't been any indication of that. Actually, they were at the ministry for the past hours, but since no one attended to them, they had to leave for their various destinations to resume the picketing tomorrow. They say they are going to do that until their petition is heard or until their demands are well met. So as of now, most of them have already left the premises of the Finance Ministry for their various destinations.
Do we know any new faces who were in attendance today following Friday's appearance by the former Chief Justice? Did she show up today at all?
All right, so for today, there is only one man who traveled all the way from the OT region to join in the protest. Aside from him, almost all the rest are the same people who have been at the premises of the Finance Ministry so far. But today, we did not see the former Chief Justice, Sophia Kufu, there. Yeah.
Thank you, Christian Yale, my colleague there from the Finance Ministry. But with the economy on its knees and individuals and businesses reeling under the crisis, President Akufo-Addo is hopeful of turning things around. He says government appreciates the tough times, but the interventions being put in place will get the economy back on track. He's been speaking at the 18th Consultative Council meeting of the Anglican Church here in Accra.
I'm fully aware that these are difficult times for us in Ghana, just as they are for most people in the world, cold comfort as that may be. However, with the help of Almighty God and backed by a sense of determination, hard work and collective sacrifices on our part, I am confident that we will successfully confront these difficulties, bring relief to the Ghanaian people, and return our economy to the high rates of growth that characterized the management of our economy the years preceding the COVID outbreak in 2020 and the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Government is implementing a number of policy measures to this end, and sooner rather than later, we shall indeed overcome.
President Akufo-Addo there. Let's get on the phone line now and speak to Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School, Professor John Gachi, on the next steps forward for the Finance Ministry with all the controversies surrounding this particular program. Thank you, Prof, for joining us. So before I get into the crux of the matter, I want you to take a quick bite on President Akufo-Addo's reassurance again that he understands the economy is in some crisis, but efforts are being put in place to fix it, and sooner rather than later that will happen.
Well, I think as a president, when the economy is going to turmoil, it is only expected that he give some kind of assurance to the people. But as to whether the assurance gets to the heart of the people is another thing. But I think it is right for him to indicate what he expects about the economy.
Now, let's talk about the domestic debt exchange program. In the last few hours, we've been getting indication that government just may have secured that target, the 80% to roll out this particular program. But from where you sit, would it even matter at all whether or not the 80% target is reached?
Well, I think the finance minister told all of us that the target is working with 80%. So as of Friday, the indication is that they could get as much as 70%, but it was difficult to get the 80%. So if indication is being rumored that they get 80% or 80+%, one would like to know whether or not the pensioners and the individual bondholders are included in what they are getting now. Because the understanding is that if the individual bondholders and the pensioners are not included, they cannot get the 80%. So it is curious what kind of mathematics is going on, because it is based on that the finance minister was begging the pensioners to be included. So how come all of a sudden we are hearing about 80% plus? So there must be something that ought to be explained, especially whether the individual bondholders who have not signed are added by force or what.
And Prof, the conversation still lingers on whether or not this is truly voluntary in the strictest sense of the word, because we had there the convener of a pensioner bondholder saying there are two legs to this particular conversation. One, you could be exempt from it, but then when it's time to have the coupons mature on your old bonds, I mean, whether or not government has the wherewithal to pay up those bonds and the timing of the payments could be in question. And then also, if you voluntarily, either you decide not to sign on, there could be consequences, even legal. Do you think at this point, government should be taking a firm decision to say, see, I understand the burdens of the pensioners, I understand the burdens of these individual bondholders, I am taking that decision to completely exempt you, and that will have no legal implications. So this can all end.
Well, if you are exempted, you are exempted. If you do not sign on, you have no problem with your bond, because all that it means is that the government was calling on people to support him. You have decided you don't want to support the government. Therefore, the government should pay you when it is fall due. It's as simple as that. That is what the contract is. So if we are giving teeth to all that that the government may pay or may not pay, I do not think that is the way forward. The way forward is your bond is intact and you will be paid.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor John Gachi there speaking to us. He is the Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School, and I'm sure in the coming hours, if you stay with us, we will be getting through to the Finance Ministry to get an understanding of the next steps forward. That announcement, is expected sometime today, according to our sources with 3 Business, who have been telling us. We will be engaging those sources as and when we get through to them. Now, let's move away from that and do some politics, because we know the governing New Patriotic Party has been cautioning flag bearer aspirants against flouting the party's code of conduct. And the party says it has not yet fully opened the floodgates for campaigning of these particular aspirants. But we know in the last few weeks there's been active campaigning by some of these individuals. We'll be getting through to all of that. They've been issuing a statement after a retreat at Pejase in the Eastern region. My colleague Dennis Wedam is still here. He'll be joining us with the outcome of that particular retreat. But here is Member of Parliament for Nsawam Aduadri and Majority Chief Whip of Ghana's Parliament, Frank Anodompre, who has been downplaying the candidature of Alan Chemanting as against Dr. Mahmoud Baumia on who should be the flag bearer of the NPP in 2024. Listen.
Share Oban Waymun, Obi o winning election be a some 2% marginal difference they determine winner.
Okay.
2%, maximum 3%. Those who are NDC will be NDC. The other can be NDC. Those who are MPP are MPP. Sure. There is a 3% difference. My analysis.
There is always a 3% difference in terms of those who are aligned to both NPP and NDC. We need somebody who can get the votes from the northern region and Muslim communities. For the records, former Trade Minister was the chair of the Economic Management Committee before he resigned.
Ashantis will always identify with the NPP. No matter the candidate, go and check the popularity of it. Is Yewura Alan Chemanting is the chair of the Economic Management Committee. I'll say you on site. You can challenge me. Okay. He is the Economic Management Committee of Cabinet before he resigned.
So you heard the Frank Anodompre. He is the Majority Chief Whip, also Member of Parliament for Nsawam Aduadri, speaking on Accra-based Adom TV. Joining me in studio is my colleague Dennis Wedam. He has been studying that press release by the NPP where they have been cautioning the party presidential hopefuls or aspirants against flouting the code of conduct of a party after this retreat. Dennis, what does the party say about the opening of the floodgates for campaigning proper vis-a-vis all we've been seeing in the last few weeks about some of the aspirants going ahead and mentioning why they deserve to be voted for?
Well, so the party has acknowledged that there have been some complaints of some sorts about some members of the party and their communicators going around doing what appears to be campaigning. Now the party only reminds them of what they themselves have subscribed to in the past. So if you recall, in 2021, specifically in July, the party issued a statement. They issued not a statement, yes. So the statement announced what they called a code of conduct for pre-presidential and parliamentary primaries ahead of the 2024 presidential elections.
Dennis, I'll have you hold on for me. Joining me on the line is Yabo Abiasamwa. He's a member of Alan Chemanting's camp. Grateful you could join us, Council, on the Midday News here on 3FM 92.7. We know in the last few months or weeks, Mr. Alan Chemanting has been launching his program, Ghana Transformational Plan, short code the GTP, which he hopes can be the game changer for Ghana. And in the last few weeks also, there have been a lot of counter conversations about whether or not it is feasible at all. What has been the team's appreciation of all the various voices that have been coming through specifically on the GTP?
Yes, that's a great transformational plan. Thank you for having me this afternoon. A very good afternoon to your listeners and viewers. Essentially, you have somebody who is seeking to lead the country who already has a plan for doing so. That's very unusual. So the benefit is that it creates space and opportunity to interrogate his intentions, to interrogate his competence and capacity, to determine whether or not he has an appropriate path, vision for Ghana. And those conversations are what are beginning to interest us, and they are conversations that are great to listen to. Beyond the conversation, there's also that clear political path where people are saying that he's a viable candidate and that given his ability to win the primary in the MPP, they will vote for him.
What would you say about those who say that you and the Alan team are getting ahead of yourselves?
How can we be getting ahead of ourselves? It's deceiving. Let's face it.
And it's a very serious business, the business of looking for a future leader. It's a serious business, and therefore we can't say that Tory is getting ahead of themselves. When people are thirsty for leadership, people want to see a way forward. People want to see hope. People want to feel hopeful. People want to trust that somebody knows what they are doing and that they can support them to go forward.
And putting that in perspective with the party statements just issued after the retreat at Pejase, you're mindful of the party saying that you should not flout the party's laid down code on campaigning when the floodgates have not been opened.
We are very mindful of the party. We respect the party. We need the party. We need to rebuild the party to be a viable machine to contest the 2024 election. But in this case, the party is reacting too slowly. The party is in a position where it's unable to engage effectively and quickly. It's being fast-footed. The important thing is that party must accept that this is the season. This is the time to engage delegates, and therefore they must decouple the right to engage delegates from the nomination date, which is the nominal date for allowing aspirants to move forward. In other words, the party expects that the license to campaign will be granted indirectly when it fixes the date for opening nominations. But in this environment where the party is unable to confirm and conclude when it will fix the date, it's unconscionable to the party itself, to the adherents of the party, the sympathizers of the party, to expect that everybody sit and wait, and wait interminably for no clear way forward. So it's time the party accepted that people have been campaigning for a long time, and the best thing to do is to accept that these campaigns must go forward.
And finally, briefly, for those who have been downplaying the potential of your candidates, any word for them?
Potential? Who have been doing what? Complaining?
Who have been downplaying the potential of your candidates as opposed to the others, particularly the vice president and other people?
That Alan Gremati is the one who is going to win this nomination. And everybody who knows that Alan will win the nomination knows that if he wins the nomination, he's very likely to win the presidency. It's a fact.
We'll leave it here. Thank you. Yabo Abiyasamoah is a member of Alan Chemantin's team. And let me get back to the studio and speak to Dennis Wedam. You were running us through the excerpts of that particular statement by the NPP.
Yes, so it's just a question that they exercise restraint and wait for the party to officially announce the opening for all these positions. Now, they make this on the premise of their own code of conduct, which says that communicators of the party shall not use both national or social media platforms to campaign for or against any prospective presidential or parliamentary candidates, or any communicator who breaches the code of conduct shall be suspended from speaking for and on behalf of. It goes on and on. And they go on to state that for the avoidance of doubt, prospective presidential or parliamentary candidates shall be held responsible for the actions and inactions of any person or group of persons identified as supporters of a particular candidate which are in flagrant breach of the code of conduct. So these were the premises. This was the premise on which the party chair cautioned the MPP faithfuls to desist from such conduct.
Thank you, Dennis Wedam. He's with the news planning and research desk here at 3FM. And former chairperson of Ghana's Electoral Commission, Dr. Akuja Ferijan, has again reiterated that the Ghana card is, in his view, not a document that should be made the sole source document for registering Ghanaians onto the electoral roll. The former chair of the Electoral Commission was answering questions when he spoke on elections and conflicts in emerging democracies at a Rotary Club of Accra West anniversary lecture. That'll be all for our bulletin this afternoon. It came to you live from our studios here at Adisawe Kanda in Accra. You log on to 3news.com, you find a lot more stories there. I am Komla Adum. Good afternoon.